Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our annual recognition of International Open Data Day, which was actually Saturday, but because of it was the weekend after Mardi Gras, and we know that everybody was busy last week and such, we decided to hold it a few days late, but better late than never. My name is Eric Romero, and I serve as the Director of Information Services here at the City of Baton Rouge in the Parish of East Baton Rouge. Our office here is responsible for overseeing all of the city parishes, technology, the systems, the data, including our open data program. I'm particularly proud of the progress that we've made over the years in building out our infrastructure, our platforms, and the tools that have made our open data program one of the leading programs in the nation, something to be proud about. But it's also a testament to the leadership of Mayor Broome and her administration for placing such a high priority on transparency and data-driven decision-making. Under Mayor Broome's leadership, Baton Rouge has routinely been ranked in the top 10 of the U.S. Open Data Census among larger cities with far greater resources for work in our open data. We have also received numerous awards and recognitions for our open data and transparency initiatives, as well as how data is at the heart of so much of what we do here at City Parish, including these rankings including Baton Rouge being ranked as top 10 digital cities for the past 7 years now. Also, would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge and thank the many information services employees, that's my team, who have served key roles in making our open data program what it is today. I'm joined by two of those team members tonight in Warren Crone, who serves as our GIS manager, and Michael Stein, who is part of Warren's team and has led our deployment of our virtual Citizen Data Academy, one of our most recent open data projects. So tonight's event is not only to talk about open data, but even more importantly, what we at the City Parish do with that data to deliver high quality data-driven programs and services to the residents we serve. I'm joined here this evening by several of my colleagues here at City Parish, each of whom I know personally place a high priority in using data daily in their various departments and functions that they oversee. So the participants, panelists tonight are Jared Heimwitz, who's the director of the Mayor's Healthy City Initiative, Kelvin Hill, who's Mayor Broome's Assistant Chief Administrative Officer overseeing various public works departments, and Chief Murphy Paul, who leads the Baton Rouge Police Department. So tonight's workshop is going to feature, we're going to handle it a little bit differently tonight. In the past, we would provide presentations on our various platforms and whatnot. But tonight we're going to do a series of 10-minute lightning talks with each of our speakers, give them some time to explain how they use data in their offices and where the benefits lie and how that translates into more efficient processes that we can provide to the citizens. At the end of each of the 10-minute sessions, we'll have some time for a Q&A from you, the public. And then towards the end of the presentation, we'll have another Q&A if anybody has any specific questions, even outside of the topics that the panelists go over. We'll take those as well. So real quick before we get started, just a little bit of housekeeping. So we will take questions tonight through the chat feature. So if you look to the bottom right hand in the WebEx panel, you should see a little speaking bubble and should say chat on it. Click that and just make sure that you are chatting to everyone. That way everybody can see the question that is being asked. You can also send it directly to me if it's kind of a sidebar question that you want to pose. So I don't think my name is showing up. It's just as information services, I will take those. So either way, ask the questions in the chat. We'll monitor those and we will present them to the panelists at the appropriate time. So now I'm going to jump right in to our agenda and the speakers this evening. So starting with our team in information services, as I mentioned, Warren Crone and Michael Stein are here representing our Open Data and GIS programs. The two of them will provide an overview of some of the latest additions to our Open Data BR and EBR GIS portals, as well as our Virtual Data Academy. You might also recognize Michael's voice as the voice of our Virtual Citizen Data Academy. I want to thank him in particular for all his work in building out the various modules and training, including in this academy. Michael started with us as an intern and has quickly grown into an integral member of our team, and we're proud to have him helping to move these important initiatives forward. Warren, Michael.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Eric, for the intro. I just have a little segment here to highlight accomplishments that we have made during the year of 2021 and our Open Data BR platform and other successes with our transparency efforts. So I'm going to share with you my screen, which is going to display the Open Data BR homepage. I hope those of you that are attending are familiar with. This is the flagship site of all of our data that we've made available to the citizens. And this past year, we launched Open Budget BR, which connects directly to Open Checkbook BR, providing unprecedented views into city parish budgeting and spending. These two applications that are providing insights into how funds are being spent in relation to what has been budgeted. And from the Open Data BR homepage, you notice that I scroll down, links to both of these applications are right here in the middle. I encourage you guys to check these applications out. They're very user-friendly and provide a wealth of information all the way down to the individual checks that are spent on procurement. Also, in the past year, we've published a series of health-related data sets. A couple of these are coming directly from the U.S. Center for Disease Control's open data platform. Their places data, which is broken down by zip code and census tract geographies, as well as their social vulnerability index. I think probably Jared will speak a little bit about these in his talk later. We also updated some of our high demand data sets, such as the tax roll, which we obtain from the assessor on an annual basis. And we relaunched the Baton Rouge Police Department's crime and traffic incident data sets. They went with a new report management system this past year, and the data is now streaming through and updates every night. As a result of some of these data-driven strategies, the city parish this past summer received a silver certification from What Works Cities. This recognition is a direct result of our investment in building a strong data foundation and culture in city parish government. That's one of the things that Eric mentioned before, is us being recognized for this work, and to I think one of the first, I want to say the 40th or so city that's been recognized with this level of certification from the Bloomberg Philanthropies. Also, shortly after this certification, the Harvard University's Data Smart City Solutions highlighted the work that we're doing with our stormwater master plan to mitigate future flooding using a data-driven approach. And again, I believe Mr. Hill is going to speak about that a little in his talk shortly. A little bit more information about these things that I've mentioned, as well as a lot of other updates that we accomplished during 2021, can be found in our policy report, which we presented to the council back in January. A link to it can be found at the bottom of the Open Data BR homepage here. And at this point now, I'd like to introduce my coworker, Michael Stein, who is going to talk to you about the Citizen Data Academy. Michael, take it away.
All right. So it's one thing to have all this data available to the public, but the next step is to empower citizens with the knowledge of how to use these tools to inform their decision making. And the Citizen Data Academy is crucial to our goal of making Baton Rouge a more digital city. So now I'll begin to share my screen. Having some trouble here. Okay, can you all see the Citizen Data Academy homepage now?
Good, Michael.
Okay. So I'm on the main Citizen Data Academy webpage right now. And previously in 2020, our team had released some much longer videos, and you can still access that content here on the 2020 page. But our goal for 2021 was to create these shorter, more focused videos so that citizens can learn the content that's meaningful to them on demand at their own pace. You can access our new video courses on this Citizen Data Academy on demand page, which I'll open right here. All of these new videos range in length from about 4 minutes to 10 minutes long. Currently, we have 21 video courses divided into 4 modules. We recommend that everyone starts here with the Introduction to Open Data module, which covers an overview of our open data portals and shows the fundamentals of how to use the basic tools. Once you've mastered that, you can move on to the other 3 modules. The community planning module here features maps, tools, and dashboards involving land development and local community conditions, like our planning and land development map here. The Living in Baton Rouge module covers tools and maps that residents understand and engage with data that impacts their quality of daily life. And finally, the City Parish Government module includes resources designed to enhance transparency in daily city parish operations, spending, and major capital programs. You see Warren just mentioned Open Budget BR, and we have a video covering the basics of that here. You can, of course, watch all of the course videos on this page, but before I hand things back to Eric, the best way to keep up with the Citizen Data Academy is here. To subscribe to the City Parish's official YouTube channel, and you can receive notifications whenever we upload a new course in the future or update an old one. We're very proud that nearly 9,000 people have watched these videos so far since October. And what you see here is just the beginning of what we have planned for the Citizen Data Academy.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Warren. So just again, the Citizen Data Academy, that's something that I'm extremely proud of. I love how the videos come together. It is short and concise. Michael said it lets you hone in on exactly what you want to learn about without having to go through all the other components. So if you're just interested in filtering the data set, you can quickly hear how to do that, as opposed to hearing the whole background of the open data program. So we think these are very useful tools, and we're going to continue to use the videos both on the open data and the GIS side, but then also some other basically training sessions that we can push out to the public, like how to use our 311 app and such. So just a reminder that you can use the chat feature to post any questions. I don't see any right now. We can, if you have any for Warren or Michael, we can take them at the end of the, oh, here's one that comes through. So here, the question, does open data include the EBRSO, so the Sheriff's Office crime and traffic data? If not, when? So that is something that we have been working on. So in 2021, the police department, the sheriff, and Baker, Central, Zachary police departments all switched to a new reporting system. So the same, we're able to get it for the police department because we have the chief's approval and the mayor's approval to do so. But those are other, I guess, political subdivisions that we have to get their approval before we include their data. So we've reached out to the sheriff now that it will be a little bit easier now that it's all in the same system. But we are still working on getting the sheriff to approve that. We're hoping, my goal is to eventually get the data from all the law enforcement agencies in the parish. So we would have all parish, all crime-related incidents in the parish on the open data portal. And from what we have heard, if that's almost like the holy grail of open data, because there is not another county in the country that has that level of law enforcement data where it covers the entire county. So it is something that we are actively working on. Anybody else? Just post the questions to the chat, and again, we'll pick them up if need be. We'll pick them up towards the end of the presentation as well. So now I want to introduce Jared Heimwitz, who serves as the director of the Mayor's Healthy City Initiatives. He can explain more about his team's work and the role they serve in coordinating health-related programs and services throughout East Baton Rouge Parish. But I can speak firsthand both to the importance of their work and how much Jared and his team value the use of data in all that they and their partners do to build a healthier community here in Baton Rouge. Jared?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Eric. Really appreciate it. So again, as Eric said, my name is Jared Heimwitz. I'm the director of the Mayor's Healthy City Initiative, or Healthy BR. So I think the first thing I should do is kind of talk a little bit about what we do, and then I can go into more detail about how we use open data and GIS mapping specifically to help make decisions. So most cities and counties or parishes our size have local health departments, and those are governmental agencies that do a variety of tasks, everything from health inspections to immunizations to public health messaging. And so in Louisiana, we don't have local health departments. New Orleans does have a quasi health department, but many of the functions are still run from the state. And so here in Baton Rouge, we're part of Region 2, which is the regional health department that we have, and that's the most local health department. And we have a medical director who leads that work, and there is a small staff that address the public health needs in our community. But typically, most of the work is happening from a state level. And so what Mayor Broom has done is she has brought me on as a part of her leadership team to fill that void around public health in our community. But what's really unique about my position is that I not only work for the mayor, but I also run a nonprofit. So Healthy BR and the Mayor's Healthy City Initiative is a separate nonprofit. And so through that work, we're able to do some unique things, leveraging both city parish as well as private and public funding and resources. And so the key of what we do, the kind of glue that holds our work together, is we write something called a community health needs assessment. This is a tax policy that was passed under the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, back in 2010. And what it says is that all nonprofit hospitals have to identify what the community health needs are in a community and then how they're going to address it. So in most communities, you have your local hospitals, and they'll work and say, okay, we're going to address these 3 or 4 things, and then they explain how they do that. But Baton Rouge is unique. In 2012, the hospitals came together and decided to write one community health needs assessment and one implementation plan. And we've done this every 3 years since then. So 2012, 2015, 2018, and now 2021. And so through this community health needs assessment, part of the process is collecting data. And so even just 3 or 4 years ago, the publicly available data was minimal at best. You had your census data, you had some public health data, but typically it's 3 to 5 years old, and it's really hard to make decisions or understand the current landscape. And so what we've been able to do is to meet with Warren and his team at the GIS department to look at how do we take publicly available data and bring it down to the local level here in East Baton Rouge Parish to really explain the needs that are in our community. So things that we look at are life expectancy, right? We can drive down to the census tract of what is someone's life expectancy. And that's great, but why is it that way? And so what we're able to do is to layer different pieces of data to help inform decision making. So for instance, if we looked at a census tract, we can say, okay, what is the obesity rates of that area? And what is the access to fresh fruits and vegetables? And are there sidewalks and bike paths that people can go out and walk and be active safely? How close is the closest park? And so we're able to look at all of these different factors to help make better informed decisions about why the health is the way that it is. And so in the public health space, we refer to these terms as the social determinants of health. They're all of the things that affect someone's health that are not your actual DNA, right? So when you think of your health, you think about, okay, well, my mom or my aunt had cancer, and so I'm probably going to get cancer. And what research has showed is that only about 20% of your health actually comes from your genetics. 80% come from all of these other factors, things like economics. Do you have access to a job? Your education? Is your community safe? Do you have a social network that you're connected to? Do you have a safe home? Do you have access to transportation? Do you have access to healthcare? All of these things are actually the things that affect your health. And what we're able to do is leverage the open data to look at all of these social determinants of health. So we're not just looking at obesity rates. We're looking at where are there bike paths? Where are there walking paths? What's the closest bus stop? Are there safe homes? Are there blighted properties? Because what we know is that all of these things affect someone's health. And so what we did in 2018 was we took a look at the Plank Road corridor and we said, okay, we know that there's a high crime rate in the Plank Road corridor. But what we didn't realize until we looked at the data was that it's also the highest density of food deserts. So there's not access to fresh fruits and vegetables. We know that 70805 has the largest density of people who don't have a vehicle. So people are walking, taking public transportation, or biking. We know that it has a high concentration of people living in poverty. We know that it's a high minority population. We know that the economic values of the homes are lower than the average home rate in the Baton Rouge area. And so what we're able to look at is that all of these things are not in silos, that this crime rate is also a function of poverty. It's a function of disinvestment. And we're able to help make that case and make decisions because we're able to look at the wide variety of data. So that's one way that we are able to make decisions and be able to communicate not only to stakeholders, but the public around why certain health conditions are the way that they are. But now we have this global pandemic in COVID-19. And so even the state health department wasn't prepared for the amount of data requests and data that they were going to collect. And so as we were reaching out and trying to understand COVID cases in very early March 10th of 2020 was the first meeting we had with our public health department and with our hospital systems, right? So we're talking about almost 2 years to the day is when we started this process around trying to understand COVID-19. And so we went to Eric and we went to Warren while we were at the Mayor's Office of Homeland Security Emergency Preparedness, and we said, can we tap into the state health department's data sets? And can we layer that data to help us make informed decisions? And so what we were able to do was we were able to enter into an agreement and be able to secure that data sets to look at cases and positivity rates to help them make decisions. But that was just the beginning. Then we had to look at how do we increase testing? And so we looked at social vulnerability index, which is a bunch of different data sets that come together to look at how vulnerable a certain census tract is. And we measured those vulnerability index with the cases, with where testing was currently available, to then identify gaps and say, okay, we know that in Scotlandville, there wasn't any testing. The closest testing from Scotlandville was a patient plus on Plank Road. And we know during COVID that people weren't really traveling. And so it was difficult for them to get over there because the public transportation system didn't connect. And so we were able to partner with churches and help bring COVID testing closer to people that needed it. The same thing we did with vaccination. So we looked at where was the data, where were there gaps of people not getting vaccinated, and then we were able to layer that data with schools and churches and parks and be able to identify those locations to be able to meet the community where they are. And so it's really important that when we look at data from a public health standpoint, it's not in silos. You need to look at the intersectionality of all of these other factors to help make an informed decision. And so I will tell you is, even to this day, there are members of the hospital systems that continue to look not at the LDH data set, but to the COVID dashboard that we created, because it was able to give them exactly the data they needed to the very point of where they are, which was East Baton Rouge Parish. So that's just some of the ways. There are lots of other ways, but those are our two big functions. It's through this community health needs assessment to understand the health of our community, and then also through COVID-19. And so I see there are some questions in the chat, so we can jump into questions. Do you want me to just start answering them? I have them pulled up on the side.
Yep. Okay. You
Okay.
can go ahead, Jared. Yep.
Awesome. So Angela had a question around mental health and addiction. So that's a great question. So one of the things that we're currently doing is we're going to be launching our new Healthy BR website in partnership with the city at the end of the month. And part of that website is going to be a behavioral health database where we're able to understand where resources are. The hope is that eventually we'll be able to take that data set and run it across the open data to look at where resources are and where people are accessing it. And the hope is that then that will help be able to derive decision-making of where we should do outreach, where we should do different programmings. Part of the challenge around health data, as I mentioned earlier, is that there are really long gaps in health data. Typically, it takes so long to clean the data that the most recent data today would probably be 2018, 2019. So we don't have the data that we'd like, but what we do is we're able to look at kind of the crime data that does exist and how that can lead to that public health data. So I know Mary wrote in the chat around opioids. So I know that our open data team is working closely with the district attorney's office and the sheriff and BRPD to look at cross-referencing opioids and overdoses with EMS and with the hospitals to look at is there commonalities that we can address. And so that's something that we're going to be looking at in the future is bringing those stakeholders together with community-based organizations and healthcare institutions. So be on the lookout that we'll be announcing that soon. Another question was around health and economic factors. So yeah, exactly. So we understand the intersectionality, and I know Chief Paul's going to talk about this as well, is that crime is not in a silo, that there are other factors that are not within our control, and we have to address poverty and support systems in the same time that we're addressing policing. And so we hope that that data helps inform the public so they can understand that, because it's one thing for us to say it, and it's another to see that on a map. Any other questions?
Any other questions for Jared? Well, again, we will use the chat feature if you want to ask any questions. All right, Jared, thank you so much for joining us and all of that information. Warren has been updating the chat feed with links to the various portals and maps and dashboards that Jared has been referencing. See, Warren's doing a better job of typing HTTPS than I am, or maybe he's smart enough to copy and paste instead of type. But so we'll go ahead and move on to our next speaker. Again, thanks so much, Jared. So Moving on to the next speaker, I'd like to introduce Kelvin Hill, who serves as Mayor Broom's Assistant Chief Administrative Officer over our Public Works departments. This is one of the most important roles we have in city parish government, and Kelvin not only brings a real commitment to data-driven decision-making across these critical programs and services, but also a private sector mentality, thanks to his extensive career prior to joining city parish, that is really elevating our departments and moving us forward. Kelvin?
Thank you, Eric, and good afternoon, everybody. Let me start by saying that a fundamental belief that we have is that you need good data to apply good judgment to make good decisions. And in the Department of Public Works, we are dedicated to making good decisions to improve what we do. One of the top priorities that Mayor Broom has put out, especially for this year, has been improving drainage. So as we think about how we're using open data to help us do that, we have been very advanced in our thinking and our approach. We have a stormwater master plan that's been a 3-year effort. That's about a $15 million effort to understand how this parish drains after a rain event. Given the experience that we had in 2016, as you might imagine, this is critically important to us. We were able to, with the help of our partner HNTB, actually map out city parish and the drainage system in city parish. And we were able to use data to model how rain flows in the different watersheds throughout the parish. This has been a very beneficial and helpful for us because it helps us identify potential drainage projects that we need to consider based on the impact that it will have on mitigating flooding conditions in the parish. So we can take the model, we can take a look at a specific project like a detention pond, plug that into the model, run the model and see how that mitigates flooding in a particular street or a particular neighborhood, and validate the work that we want to go do for that project. That's one of the ways we're using the data that we're collecting to help us make better decisions. The other way that we're using that is, in the past, we really didn't have a comprehensive view and understanding of our stormwater conveying system. What we've done with the stormwater master plan is we've mapped that out. And we've inspected over 66,000 drain boxes and conveying piping to understand, one, where they actually are, two, the physical state of them, and three, their ability to convey stormwater. Vis-a-vis, are they full of sediment or are they clean and clear? And we've been able to use data to help us integrate with what we're planning to do with the maintenance that needs to be done. And we've been able to go in and find and identify these storm drains, put them on a GIS map, and the mapping helps us see the locations of our issues. And the unique thing about that is, with the help of Warren and his team, we were able to take all of the 311 service requests that we've received for drainage, layer that on top of the conveying systems, and we can see where citizens have called in for help and support with drainage, with what we found in our inspections. And we have been able to pinpoint critical areas and issues with drainage that we're then able to send crews in to clear and clean. And that's been significant. And I just want to share a few stats with you on that. So far, since we've started this, we've probably pulled out close to 10 million pounds of sediment out of our stormwater system. We've cleaned over 3,000 storm drain boxes and associated piping. And when we're done, we would have cleaned all of the piping and all of the drain boxes that were identified to have sediment in them. So we can return our stormwater conveying system back to its original design and function, which is significant for us. On top of that, we've been able to dedicate $56 million of ARP funding to stormwater drainage, stormwater maintenance, stormwater management. And with this data, we're able to appropriately utilize these funds in the most critical areas to help mitigate flooding potential for the parish. So it's been pretty significant for us, and we couldn't do what we do effectively without the help of the data systems that we've been using. So it's been pretty unique and pretty exciting to be able to walk through this process with Eric and his team, Warren and his team, and with our partners in DPW. What questions do you have?
So Kelvin, we have a question in the chat. I've seen the models and they are fascinating. Do we have database capabilities for ongoing monitoring, gauge the storm water drains so we know those that are degrading more rapidly than expected, plan for maintenance?
Yes, we do. With the GIS system, we have the capability of pulling in multiple map layers. We have I personally used strain gauges that we have, and I used the stormwater asset management layer that we have, so we can see how things are changing during an event, and it helps us not only prioritize where to do maintenance, but it also helps us know where to send crews to do their inspections. So for an example, we had an area in City Parish that we knew we had cleaned in terms of piping and drain boxes at the street level, but we were still seeing water retention and drainage rates that were unacceptable during a rain event. And we were able to determine that there was an issue at the outfall. So the pipes were clean, the boxes were clean, but the outfall was plugged up. So that allowed maintenance to go remove the vegetation and debris at the end of the outfall, and we could see the system settle, and we could see the flow improve back to where we would expect it to be. So we'll use those techniques and others as we think about preventative maintenance in the future, and how to use the data to help us identify how to prioritize limited maintenance resources.
One more in the chat, Kelvin. Does this also rely heavily on the 311 calls to report problems?
Oh, absolutely. Our parish is staggering in size. We get on average over 100,000 311 calls every year. In the last 5 years, we've had somewhere in the neighborhood of 518,000 311 calls. We've closed about 97% of all of those calls. So if it wasn't for those calls, we don't have the capacity inside of our inspectors in the Department of Maintenance to go out and inspect miles and miles and miles and miles and miles of our conveying system. So we really need the citizens to call in and tell us where they see issues, where they see problems, to help us with the intelligence that we need to collect, so we know what to go do and when to go do it. So if it wasn't for the input of the citizens and the utilization of the 311 system, we couldn't keep up with everything. So it's critical to us to have that input. It's critical for the citizens to participate through 311, because you are effectively helping us with the inspection process, being eyes and ears in your neighborhood. And you see things, let us know things. So once we know, we can make a plan to fix it.
So again, if anyone has any questions, post them to the chat. So while we're waiting to see if anybody else has questions, Kelvin, can you speak to how the city decided to prioritize the drainage projects that were tied to the ARP funding? I know that when we were notified that we were receiving ARP funding, we all know there's a whole lot of needs in the city. We're talking about 3 of them right here. the health of the citizens, the drainage, and then public safety. So can you just speak a little bit to how y'all identified the projects that ARP would be funding?
Sure. Basically, it was based on risk to city, parish, and the citizens, and the economics, the funding available, right? So as you think about drainage, what we try to do is we try to be sure that the outfalls are clear, and we work our way back up the channels through the laterals, through the conveying system, through the street boxes, right? So as you do work and as you make improvements, the water will flow. We had some channels that through time we have been made aware and we knew were critical in terms of the risk to drainage and needed to be cleared or snagged to help reduce the flooding potential. So that's really what drove the selection of the projects. As a lot of people know, we already had project work ongoing with the 5 tributaries. So that was significant. But we had laterals that connect to those tributaries that we knew were issues. And there were some segments of the tributary project that didn't really touch, some areas of the tributaries that we thought were important. So we identified those with the ARP funding, and we've gone after those with that funding. Now, that's not the end of it. We also are aware that the bipartisan infrastructure law was passed with another $1.2 trillion of funding. It is our intent to continue to get federal dollars to continue to progress and move through our drainage system to get other areas of our drainage system that we know needs work and attention. So hopefully this will be an ongoing process for us, and we can set up a funding mechanism in the future to sustain the improvements that we're making and to also fund the ongoing maintenance that needs to occur.
Right. So I do not see any other questions in the chat. So thank you so much, Kelvin. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
Now, I'd like to introduce our final speaker for the evening, Chief Murphy Paul. Chief Paul is a huge proponent of using technology in any and every way possible to inform how we respond to and reduce crimes throughout our city. Under his leadership, efforts like our Real-Time Crime Center have become a reality, and we are very fortunate to have a police chief who prioritizes the use of data in all he and BRPD does to make our community safer. Chief, let me know if you cannot share. I know you want to share your something that you have.
Sure. I'm going to need a little help with that. Do I click share content, share web browser, or share my
Share content, and then you should be able to pick whatever application you're sharing.
Okay, thank you. One of the things I want to talk about, and I really support, and I'm a big champion of what our information services section has done for us. Can you see my screen?
We can.
Okay. What was created was the Public Safety Common Operations Platform picture. And what it does is, right now in policing, we have to do more with less. And it was important for us to use data to make better informed decisions. And what our information services has done, it's really created dashboards at different levels for supervision to help our supervisors make better informed decisions, to help supervisors in their patrol strategies, looking at response time and resource allocations. I have this one up right here to show you one of the platforms that was created just for us. When we want to see how efficient we are, how we're doing when it comes to response time, as well as on scene time, so we know how many hours, how many minutes we're spending on calls for service. So this is an example of one of the dashboards that we use on a daily basis that our supervisors have access to. We can look at specific officers to see what time they're spending. We can break it down by district, by subzone, by crime prevention district, by council district. This helps in so many ways. It does not only help our supervisors in the decision-making process, it helps me when I'm talking to my city councilman. It helps me when I'm at crime prevention districts. It's unfortunate today that there's so much misinformation that's out there when it comes to crime and when it comes to a perception of crime. So when I use these platforms at community meetings, they've been very, very informative. It helps with education and also with awareness. We also wanted to make a dashboard, which you see here is a roll call dashboard. This is a dashboard that every supervisor at the district level can see. It actually shows you how many calls for services that we respond to on a daily basis. But what it does is it also shows you where specifically in the zones and the subzones where we spend most of our time, where we're having the most calls for service. So having this information readily available to every supervisor on a daily basis really gives him a picture, not only what's happened in the past 24 hours, but what's currently going on as it relates to calls for service. Now he can take this data and information and then use it in a decision making for his patrol strategies. And then we also have dashboards for senior staff like myself. You know, one of the things that I like to look for when I am come to work every day is to kind of have an overview on what crime looks like. So if you look at this dashboard right here, this was created for me and my senior staff. I kind of have an understanding on how crime is on a 2-week basis. So if you look here, we broke it down into our major categories, our categories of assault, shots fired, overdose, traffic, burglary, robbery, theft. So you have not just property crimes, emotionally disturbed persons, shot spotter. But when I look at this, it gives me a gauge every day on where we're at when it comes to the average number of calls for services that we have in a 6-month period. This really, really helps us in the decision-making process. Those gauges were created for someone like me because I'm a visual guy. So every time that little needle is to the left, I know that crime is down in the city of Baton Rouge. So having the availability of real-time information like this, it really, really helps us a lot. We're using this to identify what we call hotspots. We believe that there are micro areas, there are small areas within the city that where crime occurs. One of the things that we've been very fortunate with is it actually tracks repeat addresses. And what repeat addresses does, what it does for our supervisors, we're able to do an analysis on those particular properties where we're spending so much time in calls for services, and see what we can do proactive to prevent or intervene so that we don't have to respond to that next call for service. Examples are alarms, emotionally disturbed persons calls, and overdoses. So those are some areas that we are pushing this data in real time to service providers to help on the prevention and the intervention piece. So that's another example on how we're using a technology. And I want to talk about this one here, which is our Connect Blue Baton Rouge that you see right here. We understand today with technology, so many of our residents have cameras. So what we created is Connect Blue in Baton Rouge, where we're asking residents in our community to join our camera directory. We're asking businesses to do it as well. Those who choose can also give us access in our real-time crime center. But what we're doing is we're empowering our residents and businesses to help us solve crimes and protect their neighborhoods. We have some partnerships with one specifically the Sherwood Forest community, where we have license plate readers as well as access to their cameras, where we're actually hardening that community and really making it a safer place. And in the event a crime does occur, we're working with the residents in that community to help us with our investigative efforts. So that's an example where we are working with the community and using this data to be smarter in how we police in the city of Baton Rouge.
All right, thank you, Chief. So we had one question earlier during Jared's presentation. How's the health and economic factors statistics of the 70805 area taken into consideration for its assigned policing district? But I think you can open that up to just how do y'all factor in data into your policing strategies? And I know that Warren's team did some work on realigning the districts around data. So maybe you can speak to that a little bit.
Absolutely. I think I talked about that. One of the things that we look at, and I didn't pull that particular dashboard up, but we do have a dashboard that actually show us where those hot spots are. So one of the things we're doing right now is, particularly when it comes to violent crime, we are directing resources. We actually are using the data in our operation called Operation Red Stick, where we're putting police officers in specific times at specific locations based on the data, also based on intelligence. What we have is actionable intelligence that we're getting from members of our community. And we're putting a lot of pressure in those areas, directing specialized divisions like our SWAT team, our K9, and our street crime unit to help reduce crime in those micro areas in our city.
All right, thanks, Chief. So I know you showed several dashboards are showing trends and such, but how are y'all using data or do y'all use data in a real-time capacity, either at the RTCC or elsewhere?
Yeah, we're actually using data in so many different ways. Having analysts right now, we're in the process of filling more analysts in a real-time crime center so they can help with the analytical exploitation of all that data. But some of them are the repeat addresses. One of the things that we talk about with our data, also how we're coordinating that data with our new Motorola technology, Command Central Aware, where we're actually able to look at patrol strategies, look at the mapping through Peace Cop, intersecting those to see if our patrol strategies are actually having a positive impact on reducing crime. So the Real-Time Crime Center is using that data in a real time.
Right, thank you. So we have a couple questions coming through now. So one question, will security cameras be placed to assist in this effort based on data?
Yes. So one of the things, good question. One of the things we looked at with the calls for services on where the camera placement is going to be. We've been fortunate through our president and the leadership of our mayor and city council. We have American Rescue Plan dollars. Those dollars have been dedicated to put crime cameras as well as license plate readers throughout the city. Now, the locations where the cameras are going to be placed have already been identified and is driven by data. So the data is driving where these cameras are going to go. We're also looking at some new initiatives. I thought about this weekend as well. One of the challenges with putting cameras up is we have to have the infrastructure in place in those areas to place those cameras. You have to have connectivity. You have to have the ability to store the data that's coming through that, and that takes infrastructure. But we're looking at some more creative ways where we're working with citizens. I just talked about the Connect Blue initiative, as well as some other initiatives where we're trying to engage the community and look at existing infrastructure that we can use to place cameras.
So yeah, and I'll piggyback on that in that we in IS are constantly looking at how can we help facilitate technology throughout the parish for city parish agencies like the police department. So as Chief mentioned, to put a camera out in a certain area, you have to have certain infrastructure, you have to have power, you have to have network connectivity. network connectivity is sometimes a bit of a challenge. Because the amount of video that comes through those cameras, it's difficult to push them through the cellular network. But we're looking at some creative ways to possibly, if we can identify a city parish asset that has network connectivity, maybe it's a pump station or a Head Start center or something like that, and we need to put a camera near that location, maybe we can hotshot it back to that facility so that we can have that better data or capacity of infrastructure to push that video back to the RTCC where it's stored. So let's see. So another question, how can a community know where the cameras will be placed in response to those issues? So are y'all sharing the locations of the cameras that we own, Chief?
No, that information has not been made public yet. We do have the areas in the city where the cameras will not be covert cameras. They will be overt cameras. You will know that those cameras are there. However, there are some cases where we do have overt cameras that are placed. Those cameras are very specific, usually for a specific type of investigation that we have, and we do have those throughout the city. But I think that is something that we could, talk about sharing. We do understand that transparency is very important. I actually like the overtness of it. I think that it helps us with deterring crime. But we do have covert cameras that we will be placing throughout the city that will also be moved at different times, and that will not be made for public consumption.
And then one more question. For those who are in crime-adjacent neighborhoods, how are they able to sustain a safe neighborhood? How do I protect my neighborhood when the next neighborhood may have a higher level of crime?
Yeah, one of the best examples I give on that is Sherwood Forest. When we met with the Sherwood Forest Crime Prevention District, and we began to talk about ways where we can harden that community, and we were able to do that with looking at all the ingress and egress areas in the neighborhood. There was some infrastructure challenges initially, but I think they've really set the framework on what a community can do to protect their neighborhood. Look, if there's a crime that happens in that area, we pretty much know if it was somebody from the outside that came in and committed that crime, or if it was somebody from within that community that's responsible for it. Because every plate that comes into that community is being recorded in some capacity, as well as cameras. So that is an example of a way. And those cameras, when you go through that subdivision, you are very well aware that you are under surveillance. And it's really had a very positive impact on reducing crime in that areas, but also giving us evidence on perpetrators who have committed crimes in surrounding areas that are adjacent to that neighborhood. We've actually solved crimes, and we've identified suspect vehicles because of cameras and license plate readers in the Sherwood Forest subdivision.
All right, so just one follow-up there. I would like to know how to address my neighborhood with the police. How do we get that type of meeting scheduled and executed?
So you can call us anytime, email. In fact, I have 2 next week. I just got emails on neighborhood associations have asked us. I know there is a federal. I'm trying to think where's the meeting at. It's the Federation of
So Ed's actually on the WebEx. He had posted a comment. So Ed, can you put in the chat where that meeting's going to be at? But Chief, what email address do y'all have a email that they should send into?
If you can actually send it to Chief mjpaul@brla.gov. If you send it to me, I'll make sure our community services receives it. You let us know where your meeting is at, and we'll be there. But we are consistently attending neighborhood association meetings. We know the meetings at the library, and I hope he's going to post it. But if you're not part of that organization, I encourage that you do, because they meet frequently, and we always make ourselves available.
So that is, so Ed's saying that that's not a federation event. That must be just a regular homeowners association event. So the federation is the Greater Baton Rouge Federation of Civic Associations, and I hope I have that right, Ed. So Ed had posted a comment. He's the president of that organization. So they're basically an organization made up of representatives from various homeowners associations throughout the parish. His comment was, with respect to Connect Blue, the Federation members are big supporters. We have noticed that House Bill 52 is advocating a crime for unwarranted video surveillance of residential property. We don't understand the impacts, but might be worthwhile to take a look at this legislation. And Mary has posted that the next meeting is this Thursday evening at the main library at Goodwood. Mary, is that a federation meeting or a homeowners meeting? So that one's the federation.
Yeah, but just to know, if you call me directly, we will send someone to your homeowners association. Myself and my staff, we attend a lot of homeowners association meetings, and we will be there with my staff that can help you navigate through that connectivity issue if you also are looking to do what Sherwood Forest has done.
Right. Okay, so someone else posted that Angela was asking about a crime prevention improvement district, but again, reach out to Chief or contact BRPD, and they'll get someone lined up for that discussion.
mjpaul@brla.gov.
Good. So I know we are a little bit over. Just want to leave it open for any other questions. All right. So as we close out tonight's event, I want to thank all of our speakers and everyone in attendance for joining us. Each year, International Open Data Day serves as an important reminder of how important transparency and data-driven decision-making is to government agencies throughout the world, and it's especially true here in Baton Rouge. Under Mayor Broom's leadership, and as you heard tonight, our city parish remains hard at work to serve the residents of East Baton Rouge Parish while integrating data and technology into all the innovation that we provide. So I hope you found tonight's presentation helpful and insightful. I'd encourage you to visit our website, where we have a section specifically devoted to transparency. That website address is brla.gov/transparency. You can also access our Open Data BR portal at data.brla.gov. Our GIS resources, so those are all of our mapping resources, at gis.brla.gov. If you have any questions for us, please email opendata@brla.gov. We're very responsive to questions via email. Mary post, are we going to post this as an archive? She knows the answer already. That's why she asked the question. Of course, we record these because we understand that folks, even the folks that have signed up and weren't, think life happens, you can't attend. So we will post it on the city parish website. It will be at that same brla.gov/open data day link that you, or webpage that you went to register for the site. Any other questions at all for us, even if it's something on the portal. You know, the panelists may drop off, but Warren, Michael, and I can stick around and answer any specific questions on any of the technologies that we have. All right. Well, again, thanks everyone. Thanks to all the panelists again. Have a great rest of the evening.
Thank you.